So just to clarify then, the question is what's the cumulative CPI increase? So I'm just trying to clarify.
What's the justification for costs increasing for the City of Adelaide at a rate of double CPI?
CEO, would you like to weigh in on this one?
Through the presiding member, and I think Mr Spartellis has already made the point, the question's couched in terms of escalation of a cost base, but the reality is that budget to budget, we don't simply consider the escalation of the previous year's costs. There's a fulsome review of service changes to implement strategic initiatives endorsed by the council through its strategic plan or subsidiary plans, and there is also the matter of discretionary strategic project allocations that are presented in detail by the council. So while we can provide some advice in relation to 4-year movements regarding various lines in the budget, they need to be considered in the context of what service changes were endorsed and approved by council and what strategic initiatives have been incorporated in the budget, and that varies year by year.
Yeah. Well, maybe one of those variations, because I do think it is important we look at the context, because, when we talk about budget repair, there comes a point when that line doesn't work anymore because the city has recovered that amount of money, and I'm concerned that there's a bit of a blank check going on here. So my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the average Australian wage is about $89,000 a year. My understanding is that we have 715 employees in the City of Adelaide, full FTEs, and our wages budget is $98 million. That gives me an average wage of an Adelaide City employee of $137,000, which is around $50,000 above the average Australian. And then we've seen over the last 4 years an increase of employee costs by about 30%.
So you're asking Councillor Davis, what is the change in employee costs over the last 4 years? I'm just trying to understand as a question administration can respond to.
I'm just wondering why. I'm asking for a justification as to, we hear that this is the most prudential budget that's ever been produced and that there's nothing we can do. But the issue for me is, and correct me if I'm wrong, $98 million worth of employee costs, 715 employees. That means the average employee is receiving $137,000 a year. Is that good governance? Is this the best we can do? And have we benchmarked this against other councils? Where do we sit in terms of their average employee costs?
Okay.
Because it seems to me quite exorbitant.
Through the chair, the first comment is you need to adjust your numbers by 20% because there are 20% on costs. So the $90 million isn't just what we pay people. There's super, there's work cover, there's employee-related costs on top of that. In addition to that, the 715 full-time FTE is correct. However, in addition to that, there are casual employees that also make up that balance. So your leap from A to B is quite simplistic in nature. There's a lot to unpack in that. And as part of the enterprise agreement process, we continually benchmark ourselves against other councils, and we are mid to bottom ladder at the moment.
So there are councils out there who are getting a higher amount than $137,000 per employee.
All right, the 137 is a simplistic.
Yeah, I think we've noted that. So we're giving justification around how the number comes together, Councillor Davis.
But it's not that
far. You can express
off.
an opinion on it, but are there any other questions?
Can I remind the councillor that through the development of the business plan and budget, we provided a full detailed breakdown of the employee costs for the 26-27 budget, line by line. It was a comprehensive briefing that also included advice regarding the enterprise agreement negotiations. And yes, one of the underlying principles of entering into that enterprise bargaining process was a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, but we don't sit at the top of the table. And all the benchmarking that we've done, the processes we've pursued through the enterprise bargaining process was to lift the lowest paid people in our organisation from the bottom of the lowest quartile to mid-range in quartile 2 or 3. We are not at the top of the pops.
Thank you. See, I do recall those briefings. That information still remains available to all members to review at their leisure, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots
Any
of
further
information.
questions, Councillor
I
Davis?
do. Yeah, there's. Thank you very much for lots of information. Doesn't mean that it's good news. You know, you read the papers and there's lots of bad news in there. Just because we have the news doesn't mean it's a good thing, or that it's correct. In terms of fees and charges, the increase in fees and charges will be about, if I recall, about $8 million. So that's car parking fines, and also includes so statutory charges, and then also income from our U parks and things like that. What will be the increase in parking fines specifically? Are you able to tell me
So the
that?
question is, do we have information on the increase in revenue generated from parking expiations? Is that the question, Councillor Davis?
Yeah.
I believe that would be in the budget numbers. Is that one we want to take on notice, or can we address that now?
Through the presiding member, fines and expiations are actually in the category of fees and charges that are set by the state government. When we brought the fees and charges report in, the recommendations were sought approval and support based on the category of various fees and charges. Expiations are set by state government, they're not set by council. I'm not aware as to whether we've had the final update on expiation fines, so they will flow through the budget. The budget incorporates a revenue estimate based on about 3.5%, but the actual setting of expiation fees is a matter for state government.
Let's clarify another question that Councillor raised, which we haven't come back to yet, is when will budget repair end? So my understanding, which I think it's all important we're on the same page around this, is there are two components. One's the asset renewal repair fund and the other is the asset renewal funding ratio. Is that correct? Once they're both addressed, that essentially means that the job of budget repair we set out to achieve is complete?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So
we've
we disagree
raised
with that.
3 times the increase in renewals in more money. So the City of Adelaide has raised 3 times what we've put into renewals in terms of the cost. So there's an extra $44 million that's then gone back into other costs and disappeared.
Is that a question or is that a comment?
What's the
Councillor Davis?
question? So in terms of budget repair, if the city's expenses continue to increase, and our rates revenue this year will increase by 7.1%, so we have a huge increase there in revenue. Our renewals budget, I just don't understand, and can the administration explain to me, with such a massive increase from 4 years ago to now, how are we still in budget repair when the income is an extra $64 million a year?
And just to clarify, it's 5.6%, not 7.1%.
No, it's 7.1% increase in general rates revenue.
I know that's the number you keep referring to, but I think for people listening in, it's the 5.6 is the figure that's most relevant to them. It's 7.1%. I understand.
It's
you're
not
getting
relevant
at.
to them because they should reduce their
That's a debate you
council
and I can have
rate
next week in the
increase
council chamber.
by the
Councillor
additional
Davis.
ratepayers.
So the question there. So what was your question? Sorry, Councillor Davis. No, it's just let's clarify what it is.
The issue is that as a city, we're generating an extra $64 million per year over the last 4 years. We've spent $20 million of that on the renewals, which is meant to be this budget repair line, which is a third of the additional revenue that we've raised. I'm concerned, at what point will we actually see the $64 million actually repair the budget?
Point of order, Chair. The question has been answered. Just because you keep repeating the question doesn't have any relevance, huh?
Thank you, Councillor Martin. I am trying to get to the bottom whether there's a new question in there. I think the additional question was, has there been $20 million spent on renewals? Was that
No,
the
I know
additional-
that there has been. So there's been an increase. but at what point, because by your metric is, as soon as this ratio is equivalent, right? That's the answer, is as soon as this ratio is fixed.
When is budget repair complete? We've
concern
just
is
answered that question.
The expenditure.
Do you have any additional questions, Councillor Davis? Otherwise, I'm going to move on.
My concern is the expenditure of the city has just absorbed $44 million worth of additional income.
So that's a
and it hasn't
comment.
been
Sorry to
put to
interrupt
budget
you.
repair.
That's a comment, and I'll come back to you for comments. But do you have any further questions?
That's my question: is when will it fix it? When will we stop using this line? At what point will ratepayers not be told that they're still in budget repair when we're in a spending problem?
So I'm happy to give you an answer to this, and I could be corrected by the administration. So Asset Renewal Repair Fund, this is the last year of 3 years in which we had money coming back to that. We've also had a 0.5% increase year on year for asset renewal funding ratio. That's in the long-term financial plan, so it's all out there. So the answer is out there already.
But what's the date?
Well, we could go into the long-term financial plan and see it's a 0.5% forecast per year.
That's my question. When's the date?
We could do the maths now, Councillor Davis. I won't do it though. We're currently sitting at 94.5% off the back of this budget. We'll get up in 0.5% increments towards 100%. I don't think you have any other questions. I'm going to open up to
No, sorry. Can you at least take it on notice? That is a valid question.
I was doing quick maths in my head. I'm happy for the administration
I'm not
to
asking you.
respond.
The presiding member, we've given an undertaking to address a couple of questions. We will address the timing of the elements of rate rises related to budget repair in detail as part of that.
Great. I look forward to hearing that as well. I am going to happy to come back to you for further questions, Councillor Davis, but I want to give others the opportunity to ask as well. Councillor or Deputy Lord Mayor, sorry.
I concur with Councillor Martin. I think this is a balanced budget, but we have public consultation for a reason. And during that public consultation and reporting back to council, what came out very strong to me was the cost of living pressures, our high rates and fees, and which really leads me to the 5.6 increase, which I think it is too high. I actually think that if we could get it closer to inflation, which was often the comments that have actually been raised over the consultation process, and I do have an amendment to the actual motion.
Have you shared the amendment with the governance,
Yes,
Deputy Lord Mayor?
I have. I've had quite a lot of discussion with
So let's just have a look at it first.
COO as well.
Can I seek clarification from administration? So I think we've had these discussions in the past when something an amendment versus an alternate motion. Is this is the advice of administration this is an amendment or alternate motion? Mrs. Vitalis or governance team? Sorry, do you want to come on microphone there so we can hear?
My understanding is, given the size and nature of the proposed change, it's likely to fall into the alternate motion category.
Okay,
I don't
so
think there's-
It's not an alternative.
due to the size and nature. Okay,
Clarification, Chair.
Size and
yes,
A
Councillor
clarification, Chair.
Kiros.
This motion was floated with staff and I would say with elected members. Was the councillor advised that this was an alternate motion?
I'm not sure.
I
was
can
the-
answer that question, no.
Well, that's not
And
appropriate.
I made it very clear that it was an amendment.
That's not appropriate because this is the pickle that we get in every time with these motions.
So
No,
it
someone
says at
else
the top.
put,
It
no,
says,
I
okay.
didn't put that on my emails, excuse me. Someone else has.
Okay.
I put
So-
amendment many times.
It's ultimately, in matters such as this, I understand it's up to the chair to determine whether it's an alternate or an amendment. Based on the feedback from administration, I'll accept that this is an alternate motion. So the way we need to deal with it is that we consider the initial motion that's been put already, which has a mover and a seconder. We consider that first. If that is not successful, we then come to the alternate motion.
Well,
Can
Chair,
I just check with
point of
governance?
order.
Sorry, Councillor Kouros, I just want to check that's the correct process. Yes, Councillor Kouros.
A point of order, if this was to be the advice from administration, councillor has been very clear that she was going to put up this amendment. We face our time like this in council time and time again. Why wasn't this clarified to the councillor before coming into this committee. And why are we constantly faced with these governance issues
Point of order.
time and time again? And I would like
Point of
my
order has
question
been called by
clarified.
Councillor Giles.
This
I
is
have
a
my point of
question,
order.
not a point
Councillor
of order.
Carros.
This is
Sorry,
a question,
got it.
not a point of order.
Well, it is.
So you have it, sorry, hang on.
No.
So,
My point of order is that this is a question,
okay, your
not a
point
point
of
of
order, yes,
order.
okay. Sorry, I'm happy to go back to you, Councillor
Well,
Carros.
I think this should be clarified to the councillor, and I believe that since she put it forward, we should be looking at this as an amendment, not as an
So
alternate motion.
appreciate the feedback. My view is that in
this is
a
a
Councillor Carros,
position
thank
to
you.
stop this from getting through, and I don't
Thank you,
appreciate this
Councillor Carros.
at all.
Appreciate the feedback. My view is that this is not the appropriate junction or meeting to discuss the governance procedures around whether motions are called an amendment
Well,
or
this needs to
alternate.
be part of the
So
independent review
I've
that's
made-
been commissioned,
yeah.
because it seems to be a flaw we constantly face in this
Certainly
council.
can be part of a review. So I've made a decision. I need to. So my decision is that this is not an amendment, is that this is an alternate motion. As I said, that means that we consider the first motion that's already been put, and then if that fails, we then come back to this one if it still has a mover and a seconder. Deputy Lord Mayor, I'm still with you. Did you have further comments you'd like to make on the motion that's in front of us?
That I can't support, I can't ignore that public consultation. I can't support a motion that's got 5.6 in it, when I think there is a clear path to reduce that to 4.9 to get it closer to inflation. I know that there's $1 million in that, a $1.04 million. And to me, we're going to actually have a external review of our operations, our revenue expenditure, our efficiencies, and I believe that at the end of the day we will find that within that report. I know some areas where it will be questioned, and it equates more to 1.04 million. So I actually believe that we have got the capacity that would reduce the operating surplus to 3.9, but at the end of the day, like I said, I think we could pick that up over the fin year with the review and with careful management, and I don't think that 3.9 is a bad operating surplus anyway, and I actually think that we would send out a fantastic message to our community that we're listening to them, we're looking at our budget in many lenses to try and actually accommodate their needs. Coming to the party, everybody's got all fees are going up. If I looked at the list of councils that the COO sent and their rates, and I looked at the top 8, what they called the group of 8, and most of them are under 5.6. So I just think that we should consider looking at this with that in mind, that we need to actually listen to our community and not pay lip service to this public consultation that we do, and just, you know, it just feels like we just tick a box, to tell you the truth.
Just to clarify, is that 3.9% or 3.9 million operating surplus?
Sorry, 3.9 million that would be in surplus if you reduced from 5.6 to 4.9, you would get a operating surplus of 3.9 million, bearing in mind that we're also doing the external review on our expenditure and our operations. So I actually believe that it doesn't change any of the capital works, it doesn't change any you know, we don't cut core services, we don't reduce operating programs, we don't impact the subsidiaries or reduce adopted asset renewal program. We are just looking at, and this is, I have been advised by administration, by the COO, that this is the only way if we want to reduce that 5.6 to 4.9, that it is in the operating surplus.
Can I clarify a question for the administration? Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. So the amount of operating surplus was discussed last week as well, quite extensively. Are we saying that it can be reduced to $3.9 million operating surplus with no impact? Is that I don't want to put words in your mouth, Deputy
I'm
Lord
not
Mayor.
saying there won't be an impact.
Through the presiding member, there are two direct impacts of reducing the rate increase. One is a reduction in the operating surplus from 4.9 to 3.9, which reduces your operating surplus ratio to 1.5%. There is a consequent impact regarding an increase in borrowings of the same amount. So you take $1 million out of the surplus, you increase your borrowings by $1 million.
Okay, so the effect would be to increase borrowings by $1 million.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm next with Lord Mayor, then Councillor Giles.
Can I ask what we're debating at the moment? Just as a point of order, I'm really
Very happy to
confused.
assist there, Lord Mayor.
Are we debating the motion moved?
Very happy to assist. So the motion 7.1 has been moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Ma. Deputy Lord Mayor presented and what I've regarded or decided was an alternate motion. So that is now held off for the time being. She's then spoken to the motion in front of us, and now as other members speak, they will be considered to have spoken to 7.1.
So could I just ask a question about the alleged surplus? Because I think today...
Can you please, thank you.
Today we were given a bit of a jolt when the election was changed, because we've just spent 1.7 million trying to comply with the last election date, and there's going to be another expenditure. So already I can see that surplus eroding. Plus we've spoken about putting extra money into Renew Adelaide. I can see the surplus looking a bit ephemeral now. Am I overly neurotic?
Is there a question?
Question for
It's a
the...
question.
We'll take as the early part of the question, Lord Mayor, rather than the last part. Mr Spitalis, would you like to comment on that in terms of the erosion of the surplus, or CEO?
Through the presiding member, I think the question's centred on the potential impact of a delay in the local government elections on the 26-27 budget. In terms of that, the point is the 1.7 allocated within budgets was over 2 years, 25-26 and 26-27. There was a $752,000 allocation in the 25-26 budget. Of that, 592 has already been spent or committed, which leaves a variance of $160,000 related to the timing of marketing activities. When you consider the flow-on effect of the 5 months delay in the election, it's reasonable to suggest, based on advice from the Office of Local Government about whether we need to do another mail-out, that we'll be looking at a further impost on the 26-27 budget of between 300 and 400,000.
So just to clarify, Sarah, that's an additional $300,000 to $400,000 as a consequence of the delayed timing of the election.
Noting that there would be some notional savings in 25-26,
Yep.
but dependent on the requirement for another mail-out, which comes quite expensively, that's another 3 to 4.
And that needs to come out of the surplus that we have for FY27.
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Giles, and then Councillor Kouros, I believe, and Councillor Freeman.
What are we debating on?
The motion.
So we're currently speaking to the motion. There have been some questions. We're currently speaking to the motion that was moved by Councillor Martin and seconded by Councillor Maher. Councillor Giles and then Councillor Kouros.
I'm speaking in support of the motion. I think I want to draw attention to the themes of the submissions and responses that came back through the consultation, that there were a number of other issues apart from cost of living, including active transport, movement and accessibility, parklands, environment and greening, social and community development, including wellbeing and inclusion, core service maintenance and amenity. My concern about this motion not being supported and possibly the alternate motion being supported, is that I do not support at this stage a reduction in rates when there's still so much to be done in the city and so much to be done on behalf of our communities, and so much of our planning and strategic direction still yet to be achieved. Cutting rates by that amount would mean that we're actually ignoring the many people who put in the submissions around those particular types of things and focusing just on the cost. And there's more than the cost to your pocket about your rates bill. There's also the cost of not living in a city that has proper access to active transport, and there is not the capacity to be able to get social and community support. So I support this motion. I think partly also because the process has been incredibly thorough. The administration has answered all our questions, and we have had the most information that we've had the whole time we've been on council in terms of developing it. We've got security also for our subsidiaries, which means that they will be able to plan beyond 12 months. And I think there's been a very good and mature debate around those areas. And so I just really counsel not to make a last minute change of something that we've spent a huge amount of time and consulted broadly about and worked with people on when we don't really know the consequences of making that change at this late hour and haven't had the chance to really look at what it might mean to our budget. So this is a steady as you go budget. It's had good consultation, good input, and extremely professional advice, and so I urge council to let's get on with it, pass this budget so we can keep making the city better.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Councillor Kouros. Then I have Councillors Freeman and Snope.
Not a surprise to everybody, I can't support this budget. We've got rates that continue to increase, we've got a debt that continues to grow. We have a budget that's largely delivered through higher rates and increased borrowings. We're going up to, I don't know why, we keep calling it budget repair, we're up to $82 million in borrowings. We have little evidence of productivity improvements or cost savings. Thank God, we've got an independent review coming our way. And the whole council agreed with this independent review, which means to say that there are some questions that need to be answered. Main streets are delayed. Again, we are looking at it being done and pushed out to the last one being 2030. We promised to deliver on these main streets within this council. We have not even delivered one. We have, to say that we have so much needs to be done, I feel like we haven't done anything, to be really honest. There doesn't seem to be anything that's changed in the city. There is no economic uplift. We've got huge vacancies happening. We have a change of economic crisis happening our way. We're not pivoting ourselves to support the city in that. We are really just doing business as usual, borrowing money, even borrowing money for more trees. I think we're borrowing money, $2 million to plant more trees. And if you tell everybody this, that is running their business right at this moment, and I know that nobody here runs a business, if you keep telling everybody you're borrowing money...
Point of order.
The people voting against it.
Okay.
Chair.
Point of order, Councillor Marr.
What do you mean by no one else here runs a business?
If you don't run a business, if nobody here, I think, runs a business...
So it's a clarification.
Yeah.
If you don't run a business...
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought you were a teacher.
Members, I don't think this is a time for...
Which hat?
Members,
Is
I
it
don't
today?
think this is an appropriate time to dig into who does or doesn't run a business. We can
It
have
would
that
be
discussion
probably important if
outside
the
of ours.
if
Well-
the member could stick to the debate instead of making aspersions
Thank
on
you,
other
Councillor Marr.
councillors.
Thank you. I'm sure Councillor Kouros will return to commenting on the item in front of us.
If you run a business, you would know that you would need to cut costs and you will need to look at your efficiencies, you will need to look at how you're running your business, you will need to not borrow more money, and you will really need to tighten your belt and give it where it's really needed, and where it's needed is to support our city. But yeah, we keep calling it budget repair. I don't understand why, and I do agree there's more in our strategic plan that we need to deliver on, but I guess it depends on the appetite and the priorities of this council. I do not agree with the priorities that this council sets. I believe that we could do a lot better in delivering for the city. I believe that we could really look at it in a holistic approach and understand that businesses and residents are wanting to see businesses thriving because they don't want to see vacancies on their street. They don't want to see the homeless camping out in front of vacant shops. They want to see more support with homelessness. And we're not really delivering on that. So I can't support it. And we can continue with the spin on the budget repair, but I don't think we're repairing anything.
Thank you, Councillor Kouros. I have Councillor Freeman next, then Councillor Snow.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question to start with of the administration. Last week we passed a motion to look at the consultation feedback in Q1. Is it my understanding that we could reprioritise things in the budget to fund additional things to deliver on that feedback, but also would we be relying on the operating surplus to fund additional things that we agreed to in Q1?
Through the presiding member, Council's resolution last week directed the administration to analyse the allocations in the budget against the primary themes raised through the consultation process. That analysis will be progressed between now and the presentation of the Q1 review to Council. I can't anticipate the outcome of that.
Okay, thank you. That does give some context to the operating surplus. I'll speak to the motion now, and I guess I wanted to make some remarks as a new councillor who's been here for 8 months, but also as a resident. So budget repair is not very inspiring, I have to admit, as someone who came in here with a lot of ideas and wanting to throw money at all of them. But looking at the ASCOSA report and acknowledging we were in debt for 10 years, running an operating deficit, it is important that we address that and actually get out of the red. I'll ask you not to interrupt me, thank you.
They weren't in debt.
Point of order, Councillor Davis.
Yeah, they weren't in debt for 10 years. They ended it with zero debt.
He's happy to take that as a question after Councillor Freeman's finished. Councillor Davis, if you'd like.
Thank you. I'm just referring to the ASCOSA report in front of me. If I've read that incorrectly, so be it, but this is what I'm reading. So, like I said, budget repair is not very inspiring, but it is very important. And I do think that this budget has managed to achieve a very balanced, exciting level of project delivery as well. Of course, we didn't get it all perfect. We probably never will, and that is why I really look forward to the Q1 review to actually look at maybe that there's some areas that we haven't funded as well as we could have. Maybe there's some feedback that we haven't taken on properly. And really my one reflection of this budget process, whilst it has been extremely thorough with us as councillors, I think there could be more time between the consultation publicly and the budget coming back to us so that we can genuinely respond to the feedback we hear rather than in Q1. So in terms of what is actually in the budget, I would like to just say on the record again, this is the biggest increase ever for economic development. It is the biggest increase ever across the budget for the AEDA budget. I would have loved to have the biggest increase for active transport, for trees, for residential amenity, for cleaning, for all sorts of things. We don't. It's economic development, and I would really like that to be acknowledged in this debate. As a resident, there's lots of things in this budget that I'm not going to see, and this is my opportunity now to whinge. I'm not going to benefit directly from the Rundle Mall 50-year birthday. I'm not going to benefit from Fashion Week. I'm not going to benefit from a lot of things that are included in that 10% increased economic development budget. But I'm not going to jump up and down about it because I know it's really important to the city. It isn't just residents, it's residents and businesses. And frankly, I think it's very selfish to only prioritise one. So with that said, I think that the administration have done an extraordinary job here to continue budget repair, but also put some exciting things in the budget. There are many more things I think we would all want. I really look forward to Q1. We might get the opportunity to do that. And I guess finally, any remarks from an earlier speaker that, well, nothing's been done in the last 4-8 years, I would just reflect on who was elected in those 4 to 8 years, because it wasn't me.
Thank you, Councillor Freeman. Councillor Snape.
Thank you. I would acknowledge that for 4 years in a row, we have made steady, firm progress in the right direction. We've seen surpluses in, I think, every year. This is a smaller surplus, I admit, but a surplus nonetheless. And I'm proud to have spent 4 years voting for budgets that included a surplus, rather than only voting for budgets the previous 4 years that are in the red. So I think it's important to support a good policy and a good budget. I also want to acknowledge the Deputy Lord Mayor's efforts to lower the rates further, and that's something that I share with the Deputy Lord Mayor, and it would have been great to see it come forward as an amendment, but I acknowledge the ruling of the Chair and I accept the advice from governance that it is an alternative motion. The fact is, I do think this is a good budget, and as such, I feel hesitant to vote against this to give an alternative motion a chance. I just don't sit well with that. So I do thank the Lord Mayor for the hard work that you've put in, and it's beyond just a couple of days' work. It's been months. And so I will vote for this tonight, and if something were to come forward, perhaps at a next council meeting, I could look at it again then. But at this point, we've got a good motion, a good budget, and I just want to thank the work of the administration and the councillors who turn up to the meetings and do the work and put the effort in. Yeah, let's drive this home.
Okay, members, I haven't heard yet from Councillor Kabata, Councillor Ma or Councillor Davis. I know normally we don't ask everyone to speak, but before I go to the mover to sum up. No one is leaping forward. Councillor Ma, looks like you're
I'm good to speak
leaning
in council
forward.
next week.
Okay, you're happy to speak next week. Councillor Kabata? No, and Councillor Davis before I go to the mover to sum up.
I would like to speak. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's pretty wild actually. Just listening to the comments around the table, everyone congratulating what a great job they've done. We actually haven't done much to the budget from when it was proposed. We spent all this time. The administration proposed the budget. There's been basically no real change, right? So the council saying what a great job we've done and we've thought about it a lot. I don't think that we have thought about it a lot. And I think most councillors here would be surprised if they actually looked at over the successive years of the 4 years, the change between 4 years ago what they were charging, what we're charging now, the increase well above CPI, almost double in most cases. And I would like to acknowledge that there has been an increase in AIDA. I think we should acknowledge that because 75% of that rate increase has come from our businesses. Well, double CPI, huge increases from our businesses. And we are now going, the notion that we should now go back to the business owners and ask them for applause because we gave them such a small percentage back to them. You know, we went and took a double CPI rate increase off them, gave them a smidgen back, not even close to what they were asking for. Nothing for Hindley Street, nothing, Councillor Kabata's motion wasn't even supported. And the gall on the council to now say, you should applaud our efforts and congratulate us on your massive increase and you should be proud of what happened. Look, members, they're not happy. I don't know if you know this. I was very much hoping for an election in November. Because that will be the consultation that really matters. But in talking to I met with some ratepayers today, and I said to them, have you seen the difference between the $213 million revenue that the council used to earn compared to now $269 million of revenue? That's a huge increase over the last 4 years, a massive increase, massive. That's each and every year. We are walking away with nearly $60 million extra. And you look at the city and you go, can you see where that's spent each and every single year? Can you see that expenditure? Can you see the 35% rate increase that our businesses have had to pay and are ongoing paying for that each and every year? And the spin around it is quite incredible, and the lauding and congratulations of ourselves, because they don't see that. And if you go to Hindley Street, you won't see it either. You'll see a city that's in a state of decay, going backwards. And this council congratulating itself in such a beautiful room.
Would like to leave an extension. All those in favour of an extension? I'm going to have to count the numbers here. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5 versus those opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Extension leave is not granted.
Oh, okay.
5 in favour, 6 against.
I mean, yeah, it is.
So it's not granted. Sorry, Councillor Davis, we need to stop there.
Oh, it's such a shame.
Time is up. I now have...
Question for administration.
Councillor Snape, question.
Do businesses also benefit from non-AIDA spend, road upgrades, renewals, greening, etc.?
Councillor Slate, if you don't know that,
Question
you
for
should
the
resign.
administration. Okay, thank you. Note the feedback from the administration. That's interpreted as entry into the debate, which is not appropriate, so they won't. So Councillor Myers already indicated he was reserving his right. Councillor Gabata has done the same. I'm now back to the mover to sum up.
Yeah, look,
Sorry, can you... I actually didn't speak myself. I did have a couple of points I wanted to make. I will be brief. I take on board the point of Councillor Davis that we shouldn't be looking for applause, and I don't think any of us are looking for applause. This is one of the hardest budget processes we've been through. I think we've said that every year, but we're not only dealing with budget repair in this instance, we're also dealing with increasing inflation costs, increasing cost of living. We've obviously had a war in Iran, which thank goodness appears to be coming to a close. They're all having an impact. So this has been a very difficult environment in which to develop a budget. I've openly said, I think it was at this committee meeting 1 month ago, that I was exploring ways to see if we could bring our rate rise down from 5.6 and below. Despite that interest in doing so, I don't think I've seen any real way that we can achieve that in terms of the advice that we've been presented from the administration. However, I do have a hope for a couple of items which can offer support into the next financial year. One of them is that we do have a Q1 review coming up, which will offer us or provide us an opportunity to look at potential to support some additional measures. Also, my recollection was there's only the last council meeting where we've committed to an independent review, and the whole idea of that independent review is to look for example, efficiency gains and other measures which might free up additional revenue. So I do recognise that these are difficult times. This is not straightforward. I did want to make one final comment, is that I'll quite openly recognise I regularly refer to budget repair, but that is not open-ended from my perspective. I don't say that for the sake of it. I say it because I believe there are two genuine drivers in it. One of them, I understand, will actually no longer be an issue after this budget has gone through. So I do think it's important that we clarify that definition around budget repair, how much further is required. I think that's important information for all of us to be able to vote when it comes to next week. So with that, I'll hand back to you now, Mover, to sum up.
yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, compounding operating deficits, drastic cuts to services, mass sackings, failure to maintain assets, flogging off assets. These were, and I was there, these were the only budgets that Councillor Couros ever supported. So I understand why she can't support this. This one has operating surpluses. This one maintains and increases services. This one ensures a fair deal for our staff.
Point of order.
Moreover, oh, sorry.
Yes, Councillor Couros.
He's making assertions on a time when there was COVID, and that you can't compare the years of these years with COVID.
Thank you for the point of order, Councillor Couros. I was going to interject there at Councillor Martin and say, let's keep focused on this current budget rather than a previous
agree,
budget.
Chair.
So
COVID was
I think
a
let's
perfect
keep
time to
focused on the
sack
current
staff.
time.
Even though the Prime Minister at the time kept saying, don't do it.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Let's focus on the current budget.
Yes, certainly. Look, there's a lot of spin that I'm listening to tonight, Chair. One thing that I'm just delighted to reference is this constant repetition around rate revenue going up 7%, and income going up $64 million over the last 5 years. I am pleased to hear that. That is the record of our success. That 7% rate increase is anticipated in the coming year and way above the rate increase that we are agreeing to. It is occurring because of growth. We have skyrocketing residential growth. We have increasing businesses coming to this city. This is not something to sneer at. And there is a lot of sneering going on in here. There's a sneerer in the room. There's a sneerer in this room, and it is completely unfounded. This council has fostered growth in a way that has benefited business and residences. And that $64 million, much of it, in fact half of it, has come from that growth. And much of it has been expended on servicing that growth. Because, you know, businesses and residents, they all need to have their bins collected. They all need to have footpaths maintained. They all need to have access to the services that the city provides. Now, the sneerers can sneer as much as they like, but this is a budget that does many things, one of which is, and I was chastised for mentioning it, one of it is it delivers a surplus. Now, that word was unknown until this council came along. Operating deficits were the only words that were understood. An operating surplus delivers to this council the capacity not only to pay down debt, but it enables it to take advantage of occasions when unexpectedly governments come along and say, look, dollar for dollar, if you do this, we'll go halves in a new project for $3-4 million. Now, that option wasn't available to the previous council because it was so far in debt. This one has the opportunity to avail itself of any opportunity.
Would the mover or the speaker like to seek an extension?
Chair, I can speak no more highly of this document, and I am happy for all of us to vote on its vote.
Okay, so the mover has summed up. I'll put that to the vote. Members, all those in favour? All those opposed? Declare that carried. I'll have to take the vote again, Councillor Kabata. I need you to vote for one or the other. All those in favour? All those opposed? Declare that carried 6-4. Thank you, members. Move on to agenda item 7.2. Agenda item 7.2, funding models for Main Street precincts.
Sorry, just
Yes,
a point of order,
Councillor
procedural point of order. Did you say 6-4? Do you mean 7-4?
I must have miscounted the numbers. Thank you, Councillor Marr. 7-4. Yes, 7-4. Thank you. On to agenda item 7.2, funding models for Main Street precincts. Mrs. Spatalis, can you introduce this one?
Was it 7?
It's 7.2 is the agenda item, and 7.4 was the vote, Councillor Kouros, because we're missing Councillor Abrahimzadeh, which would have brought us up to 12. Agenda item 7.2, Mr. Spatalis.
Thank you. Through the chair. This report before you tonight is a response to resolution to explore bid type arrangements for our main streets. As part of that process, we looked at how the Rundle Mall separate rate works and how that operates, and what property owners contribute as part of that process. We used Hindley Street as a case study. You may be aware that we did propose a separate rate to fund a tenancy mix manager and potential marketing promotions type activities for Hindley Street. It was quite cost prohibitive in the end and was flatly rejected predominantly by the predominant property owners along Hindley Street. We considered what this might look like if a similar approach was applied to Melbourne Street. What we found is there'd be a significant rates increase to raise relatively small amounts. The report is there for noting.
Thank you, Mrs. Spatalis. Any questions for Mrs. Spatalis? Councillor Freeman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got two questions. So, first of all, point 20 in the report that says as the CBD population grows and commercial activity increases, then precinct-based separate rates may be viable, reflecting on the fact that the City of Adelaide has the highest growth in residential population across the state. is there a view on what sort of growth we are looking at? Like, I know it's complex, but
Through the chair, look, I provided that comment because never say never. And if we get significant population in a condensed area, it may give rise to an ability to do this.
okay, thank you. The second question related to point 19 in the report, so these alternative approaches to the levy we're talking about here, which there's quite a few alternatives listed there which sound promising. What are the next steps with those alternatives? Will they be investigated as well?
At this stage, I had not intended to pursue those unless council directs us to, but at this point, no.
Okay, members, I have Councillor Couros, Councillor Davis, then Deputy Lord Mayor. Councillor Couros?
Is this in response to the motion in regards to investigating for bids? Is this in response to that? So I'm really confused in regards to why you weren't looking at possibly doing a pilot. I mean, understanding that Hindley Street, you talked to Hindley Street traders. I wasn't there part of the conversation. There was no consultation. You had that conversation. I never had that conversation. Hindley Street works completely opposite to how some other precincts work. This successfully runs in Sydney. It's called something else in Sydney. It's called Community Improvement Districts. And they have started a trial on this right now in 3 different areas. And so far it's been quite successful. We're constantly getting accused here that businesses are very well supported, but businesses don't feel so. So why are we just not pursuing this? They do it very well in New South Wales. I understand that the government has contributed some money and the council's contributed some money. It's only a small fee. Why we can't go to the state government with this type of model, see if we can do a trial. Why are we just giving up? I mean, businesses want to see marketing campaigns on the street. They want to see events and festivals. They want to see business attractions. They want to see streetscape improvements. They want to see public art. They want to see beautification. They want to see all of that. And they want to have control over that. They want to be connected to their streets. Residents want to work with the businesses. Why aren't we enabling that? Why are we just going, nah, I'm not going to do it, doesn't work? Why aren't we just thinking a little bit outside the square here? I mean, I don't see why we've got to keep increasing the rates and then putting that money into the whole budget operations, and then we're all fighting here because everyone's got different viewpoints of where that money should be spent. So does admin, by that matter, right? And then we can't set up a type of system which, I mean, they're going guns there in New South Wales. We're way behind, let's be really honest. And we can't set up something that gives them the opportunity to grab hold of their precinct and deliver something. I don't get it.
So is your question there, Councillor Couros, have we looked at the New South Wales model? I just want to clarify.
Well, I know they've looked at it. They probably did a desktop evaluation on their own. I'm not sure if we actually spoke to them. I'm not sure if we've gone into detail with it. But, I mean, I know that so far it's a very positive effect on the streets there. My question is why are we giving up? Why are we just saying notes and that's it? I don't understand why we're not just thinking outside the square to deliver what we need to deliver for this city. And I don't want the Lord Mayor to answer, I want the administration to answer because...
I think Lord Mayor had her own question coming up. She's in the queue as well. As CEO, you have the response.
Through the presiding member, Councillor Couros is absolutely correct that bids or community improvement districts, as they're labelled in New South Wales, do operate, but they operate effectively on the back of $6 million of multi-round grant programs that are funded by the New South Wales state government.
Actually, no. They actually received $330,000 from the state government, and the City of Sydney put in $330,000.
Couros, can we let
actually
the CEO finish?
$600,000.
And then if we've got a clarification around the funding model, we can take that separately. So, CEO, can you...
So my comment was, there's a 5 $1.75 million multi-round grant program funded by the New South Wales Government that supports the operation of community improvement districts. No such fund operates in the state of South Australia. Clause 19 of the report suggests that there might be some alternative approaches, such as time-limited pilots. We could initiate a conversation with state government about them funding the seed funding. So the report is not saying we're not going to do anything. We're basically talking about the challenges about a special rate funded program as distinct from one that's appropriately supported by state government.
Councillor Couros?
But, sorry, CEO, Councillor Freeman just asked the question, if that's just point 19, if we're going to have anything further, and we were told no. I'm sure I heard that answer. Was I not pursuing it at this point? So what do we need? Do we need to do an amendment to this motion next week to pursue something, or?
I think all members are always open to propose an amendment.
Oh, thank you. All right, it's all right. I'm coming.
They are. Councillor Davis, yes. Councillor Davis, actually, you're the next. Councillor Davis.
Are we indexing the costs for the Main Street upgrades?
Let's just clarify. How's it related to this?
So I can calculate. I'm just trying to get in my mind how much it's going to cost when it comes to be. So my question is, like, are we indexing the Main Street upgrades in the long-term financial plan? Is that
Point of order, Chair. This has absolutely nothing to do with the subject at hand, which is about
raising money for Main Street?
So just hold on, please, Councillor Davis. Can we let Councillor Martin make his point of order? I am trying to understand the nature of the question.
The paper at hand is a report from the administration on a request from council to investigate whether a rate levy could be applied throughout the city of Adelaide to enable precinct groups or Main Street groups to source their own funding.
Thank you,
The
Councillor
other
Martin.
program that's been raised with you is a capital program.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Councillor Martin. So I'm seeking to clarify for Councillor Davis whether the question does indeed relate to this item or not.
It would help me
you
to
please
make this.
explain how?
It would help me to understand this decision. If other members don't understand it, that's on them. But it would help me to understand if you could quickly answer the question. In the long-term financial plan, are we applying CPI increases to the Main Street upgrades?
I'm happy to take that question. I think the answer is yes, but Mrs. Vitalis, it's a yes.
Thank you for all the drama, colleagues, rather than just
Thank
answering the
you,
question.
Councillor Davis. I next have Deputy Lord Mayor, and then I have the Lord Mayor, and then Councillor Snope.
I've, as with Councillor Couros and even Councillor Freeman, I've had a lot of discussion with ABC, Adelaide Business Connect, Andrew Wallace and David West, on bids and SIDS. I have a lot of data. I have a very good paper that I'm happy to share with everybody that talks about how it comes across different models for bids where it's volunteers versus actually funded. And I think it would be good to actually raise this in the Capital City Committee. What I'd like to, and I do know in the report that it does, even though we're saying that the traditional bid style is not viable for Main Street vitalisation. I'm not sure if I support that, but also leaves the door open by saying other funding strategies or mechanisms could potentially be identified, as the CEO mentioned. I would actually like this, and when I had my last discussion with Adelaide Business Connect, who are very behind this, and really do want to pilot, and they put together a whole proposed pilot that could be done in the Hutt Street area, actually. I would like to see that this is included in the precinct review. And I'm wondering if this is possible, that this could be explored and discussed during that whole strategic planning, that this could be an item that's actually discussed. Because I think this is where it would be good to test this whole levy market. The precincts cover, there's 7 precincts, and if there was going to be an amendment, that would be the amendment that I would like to put forward.
So your question is, can this be included, or the idea of bids be included as part of the strategic planning process for precinct groups?
Yeah,
That's the
because
question.
I remember when I had
Sorry, I think we've got the question. So because I heard a response here before to that, so let's get a response.
Through the presiding member, the draft 26-27 budget does provide for some contestable funding in relation to the approved precincts model. That contestable funding totals out at about 330k-ish, might be up to 4. In the absence of a proposal around a pilot bid, we couldn't possibly comment or commit to progressing a bid pilot in the absence of detailed cost information, and such a proposal would need to come through the contestable funding process around precincts. So
there's a way for it to occur through the contestable funding,
yeah,
but that would require...
you couldn't commit on the back of this report to commit all of the contestable funding, because that means it'll go one place.
I don't think I was suggesting that, but I would like to foreshadow a motion around this.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I just want to add to the information that councillors may need. As part of the precinct review, we did look at the bids type of model. That wasn't supported by the work that we did. Neither was it supported by EDA at that point in time as well. So, based on the discussions I have had with the General Manager, there's probably, if a precinct itself showed significant interest and was able to demonstrate some sort of commitment, it is something we could probably help facilitate through the precinct review. However, in discussions I've had with the General Manager, at this point in time, given business is doing hard, if we simply say we want to increase your rates to do this, it might be just seen as a money grab or some other impost upon business at the moment. And that's why I'm just saying at this point in time we haven't determined to pursue anything along those lines.
Deputy Lord Mayor?
When you actually say General Manager, you're talking General Manager of AEDA. You haven't actually had this discussion with the precincts themselves. So this is, like I said, I'll foreshadow a motion.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, then Councillor Snape.
Can I say that I actually don't think the bid model is the right model to help the precincts. And I'm not sure that the ABC is a good model either. The experience I had was that we had a differential rate in Hindley Street and it worked really well. We employed someone and we had a tenancy mix manager. And it was at a point when we moved from tattoo parlours to bookshops and hairdressers and bookshops. It actually changed very dramatically. I think the problem is that there's a lack of ambition in this report. We don't have to go to Sydney to look at this. Unley has, I think, half a dozen or more business areas that have differential rates. And when you look at the modelling in 15, it's a pretty lacklustre assessment, because one of the challenges, I think the precincts that want this most are Hindley Street and the East End. And both of them are places that want to have money spent on events and marketing. And when you speak to people in the business community, they all complain that Rundle Mall gets all the marketing, all the events and all the fun. And I explain that that's because they've got a differential rate system. And if you wanted more events in Rundle Street East, they should have a precinct and a fundraising scheme. Similarly, Hindley Street, I think, would tolerate it again. But the challenge in Hindley Street is the number of residential blocks. And that has actually produced a challenge for a funding model, because clearly if you live there, the last thing you want is events and noise and marketing of this in the street. So I think that this is a very uninspiring analysis of a differential rate, because what you should do is have the differential rate for the people who benefit, i.e. retail and maybe hospitality, and have a lower differential rate. There's such a sophisticated capacity in the differential rating system. You can actually have a differential rate for buildings all the way along if you can work out that the residential ratepayer doesn't want to have the same differential rate system. So I think what's also interesting is it said, oh, well, nobody would want to support this because it would be a $400 a year increase on their assessment. But I think that that's what the central market pay. So they have their own marketing system, which I don't know the details of. From memory, they always had a marketing levy that everyone in the central market paid, and I think it was probably more than this number. And that marketing levy is the sort of level of request we will want to have. So I think we've given up too easily here. I think we've got to go back to the drawing board, be more sophisticated with the differential rating analysis to exclude residential, say, in Hindley Street, or even residential in the East End, and find a way that the number matches their aspirations. And I think we've given up too easily. So I'm really disappointed by this report, because whilst I don't support bid, which is not necessary because you don't need legislation, and I don't support outsourcing this to another company, we've got AIDA, and this is what they do in Rundle Mall. If they can't get a couple of extra staff and do it for Hindley Street or somewhere, then I think we're not trying.
Lord Mayor, are you proposing an amendment, or are you foreshadowing a future motion?
The only thing I would suggest is note the continuing interest in a differential rating system to support precinct marketing and events, and seek a further report on the range of models that may be implemented. I think we've got to go back and try again.
That was probably going to be my motion.
So you're proposing to bring, we didn't catch all those words, Lord Mayor. You're proposing to bring that in?
Well, if you'll take it.
Well, it sounds like you're noting. Is that?
Note the continuing interest.
We might just slow down there, Lord Mayor, so the team can capture the words. Note the continuing interest.
In a differential rating system to support precinct marketing and events.
Yeah, we'll just pause there for a moment, Lord Mayor.
And seek a further report.
Lord Mayor, we'll just pause, so we're catching up. So differential rating system.
To support precinct marketing and events.
Yep, to support precinct marketing and events.
And seek a further report on the range of models that may be implemented. I think we want
Further
to do it, but we don't
report
quite what we
on the
want.
range of models that may be implemented.
Councillor Couros.
I think that's still broadly consistent with the motions that we have here. Do I have a seconder for that? Yeah.
Would that be a 2 rather than a 1?
I think it could be moved to a 2 rather than 1, CEO. Yeah. Okay, have a seconder is actually...
Yes, you have.
I'll go Deputy Lord Mayor as a seconder, given you'd flagged previously an intent to have an additional motion. Councillor Davis, is this question?
Speaking to the amendment.
Speaking to the amendment, okay.
Look,
So,
my issue particularly...
sorry, can we just hold for... Okay, so it's not amendment, this is formed now part of the motion. So if I just go back, we hadn't actually moved this originally. So, no, that's okay, Lord Mayor. So just to clarify where we're up to, so it has now been officially, Lord Mayor, you're moving this now in amended form? Yes, and it has been seconded by the Deputy Lord Mayor. Councillor Davis.
Look, I think, particularly with Hindley Street, until the upgrade is done, what's the point of having an event where we're going to rip up the street? So I don't know why we're spending time on this. And until, because, at the moment, I think people would be holding back from investing in Hindley Street while they're waiting for the street to be ripped up. You wouldn't then go and drop a few $1 million to do a new fit out and then have your front door blocked off and you haven't got it rid. At the moment, it doesn't make any sense to me, because at the moment, the only activation you'd really do on Hindley Street is like a massage.
There's no mention of street names.
We do know that there are no mention of street names, so there is reference to main streets though in the first sentence.
Is Hindley Street a main street?
It's not in the report, no.
Is Hindley Street a main street?
It is part of our Main Streets program. I'm just going to reflect on the time, sorry, Councillor Davis, before we continue. So if we're not done with this meeting by 8 o'clock, we're going to have to adjourn the meeting, open up the next one, close that one, come back, open this again, and then close. So if we can aim to get done by 8, that would be magnificent.
Right. So
Councillor Davis.
sorry, there's an objection to me in paragraph 9. There's a heading that says Hindley Street example. So point of order, I'm not allowed to talk about Hindley Street, even though it's in the report.
Won't accept the point of
upheld?
order. Happy for you to keep talking to the motion, though.
So we're just
Councillor
ignoring
Davis.
that.
I am saying I don't agree with the point of order.
Right. Yeah. So I think that we need to more fundamentally think about the street, talk to them, and actually, and their major concern, I would think, is that we've delayed the Hindley Street upgrade for however long. Same thing with all the other streets. If they're coming in with brand new upgrades, I can't imagine them wanting to fork out money whilst they're about to get effectively shut down all at once. So my suggestion would be park this until they're all finished. And I can't see them I think that if they would be asking for support, it would be a lower rate in the dollar, and for them to have more money in their pockets, rather than for us to do street activations. Because right now on Hindley Street, I think the only, one of the major street activations would be like a massaging competition, or how quickly can you finish a vape. So I think we need to sort out the character and nature of the streets before we do anything more, and ask them for more money and congratulate ourselves on what a great job we've done. And then ask for even more money so that we can do an even better job.
Thank you,
for these
Councillor.
streets.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Now, Councillor Sape was actually next, but he's gone. I'm going to go Councillor Freeman and Councillor Couros, noting I do want to wrap up by 8. Councillor Freeman.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Just briefly, having spoken to the traders on Hindley Street, they would be appalled at the suggestion that we shouldn't look into this as soon as possible. They are very interested in how they may be differentially rated. I think this is a great addition to the motion to look at those other options, as I said at the very beginning of this item. It's not an immediate thing to put these levies or funding options in place. It actually does take quite a bit of time to plan, and the discussions I've had with traders is knowing that Hindley Street is about to be upgraded is actually a good time to come together and start that planning process. The specific feedback was they would like to talk about that during the strategic planning process of the precinct review. Whether that needs to be reflected in this or is already happening, I just wanted to make that point. I'm sure that they will welcome the discussion either way.
Thank you, Councillor Freeman. Councillor Couros.
I get what the Lord Mayor is trying to do here. We've got to keep the conversation happening. I'm a little bit hesitant, and no disrespect here for administration, to run this report again, because I did not like this report at all, and I don't have any trust. That's my opinion, personally. I think there needs to be more of a consultation happening with the precinct groups. I don't think that we should just have administration draw up another report, which probably won't fall where people want it to fall, and it needs to have more of a consultative approach to how this can happen with precinct groups if they're not willing to look through a bids model or the SIDS model, whatever it's called in New South Wales. Maybe administration needs to review what they're doing in Prospect themselves, I think, are doing something there. Even Unley, I think there are other suburbs or other councils that are doing this and bringing people on board. I just don't. I'm going to agree with it. I don't think this. Maybe I might amend it or add a few words next council meeting. I'm a little bit worried about what the outcome will be. I'm hesitating. I probably won't be here next council. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, to look at the next report. It's for them to decide by the time it comes in again. Or maybe I might be here. We're here for another 5 months, possibly. I don't know. So, I don't know. I'll agree with it now just to get the conversation happening, but I'm stepping very cautiously through this.
Thank you, Councillor Couros. I'll go back to the mover. Lord Mayor, would you like to sum up?
No, I'd just like to say just one simple thing. If the differential rating system is such a clever tool, we could use it more imaginatively than we've got it in the report so far. And I think that AIDA also can see that there's an opportunity here that we need to address in the next term of council, but we need to have the report first, I think.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The clock is ticking. Members will put this to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Time being 7:57 p.m. We've finished our agenda items. We'll call the meeting to a close. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. I declare the meeting of the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee open and advise that this meeting will be recorded and streamed live on the City of Adelaide website. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the Council, including transferring outside Australia. The City of Adelaide acknowledges the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains as the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. We acknowledge and honour their spiritual and cultural stewardship of this country and recognise their deep and enduring relationship with its lands, waters, the sky and all living things. We pay our respects to Kaurna elders past and present and recognise the important role of emerging leaders in sustaining and strengthening culture. Item 2, we have an apology for Councillor Abrahimzadeh and Councillor Giles, I think it's just left. Now I'll seek a mover and seconder for the confirmation of the previous minutes. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Deputy Lord Mayor. No debate. Anyone? Excellent. Okay, all those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Sorry, Lord Mayor, you didn't vote on that one. All in favour of the minutes? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Do any members have declaration of conflict of interest? Councillor Freeman.
Yes, Chair, just declaring a general conflict with items 7.2 and 7.4, given both refer to the state government and the transport department, specifically in one, which is my primary place of employment, but not something I'm involved with, so I'll participate in the debate and vote for both items.
Thank you. And you've got the paperwork there, fantastic. We have no deputations. We do have a workshop on the pop-up cycle lane trial options. Now we have Mr McCready, our Director of City Infrastructure, to give us an introduction to the item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm assisted by Sean and Simon today. This is in response to a number of motions on notice and questions on notice and council decisions to come back effectively in June to discuss pop-up infrastructure within the city. We have a budget allocation to achieve certain outcomes. And what we're presenting today is a series of options which have its pros and cons, it has its challenges, but remember that pop-up is temporary activation. Effectively what we're doing is trialling something with the goal to see does it work, does it not, and can it be implemented somewhere else or within that location. Next slide, please. So we're going to present options and seek feedback on the implementation of at least one north-south and one east-west pop-up cycle build routes. Just to note, east-west is the last missing link in regards to achieving a cross-linkage in regards to the city. North-south has been done up until the zoo. Effectively, we would like to extend that into North Adelaide and close off that route. But east-west has been one that's been challenging in regards to natural feedback from the community. Next slide, please. The workshop content, there's some key questions we'll be asking. We'll go into the background and context and then talk about the pop-up trials. Really what's also important to understand is the high-level route gaps. So we want to talk about the gaps within the current route within cycling, where there's the opportunity to actually fill that gap and actually achieve a better cycleway across the city. We want to talk about C1 and C2 cycle routes. We have explained what C1 and C2 is. I know it sounds very technical, but the reality is it's a classification in regards to what's the important ones, the C1s, and then the subsidiary to that, the C2s. Possible pop-up protected cycleways and in streets. Possible alternative pop-up treatments. We want to talk about treatments, and then an opportunities map, and then naturally an engagement approach on how you see engagement, noting this is temporary by nature, and then next steps. Next slide, please. So the key questions before you are, first of all, what are council members' views on the proposed pop-up cycle routes? And from an engagement and governance, noting the temporary nature of proposed pop-up cycle routes, what are council members' views on the extent of community engagement? We wish to engage with the community. Is it consultation? Is it information? What level of engagement do you wish us to undertake? Last couple of slides from me. Just next slide, please. So before you, I won't go into the council decisions and the motions without notice, but effectively council have asked for this information to come back. They've asked for it to come back in June of 2026, and that's what we're reporting on tonight. Next slide. So just before I hand over to Sean and Simon, I just want to make clear what is the difference between pop-ups and trials versus permanent. And it's really important to understand the difference. So a pop-up is effectively a quick build, more temporary material and line marking. It is a process of testing, piloting to see if there's general interest. Firstly, with the cycle community, and secondly, with the broader community where the pop-up is actually established. It's targeted, shortlisted. It's post-installation design modifications. From our perspective, we can trial something, we can tweak it, and then it can lead to something more permanent. And it's definitely lower cost as an option. So what is the trial? Effectively, is to test and change the street's usage and operations to see how that actually works within that environment. And what is permanent cycle infrastructure? Well, naturally, it's the opposite of pop-up. It's permanent, it's high cost, it's durable, it's long-term, longer-term planning, design, construction, permanent installation, and there is a quite lengthy consultation process because you're actually implementing significant change in regards to the streetscapes. I'm not going to go through the benefits and the cons in regards to, they're self-explanatory, but effectively what we're trying to say is a pop-up is the opportunity for this council to trial initiatives in regards to protected or separated bikeways and to look at infrastructure associated with that. Next slide. So Sean, I'll hand over to you and Simon. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. As was discussed just before, the trials and pop-ups can build acceptance and buy-in from the community, and I guess that's why we're here tonight. So I'll move to the next slide. So what are our high-level route gaps that we're the reason why we're here? So east-west, no continuous east-west cycle route that's separated from motor vehicles. And in north-south direction, we do have the Frome bikeway, but there's still lengths that need improvements, and the western half of the city is not serviced by that particular facility. It's on the east side of King William Street. On the western side, there's also, I guess, a need, or there are cyclists. And so, yeah, there's not a similar facility in that half of the city. And so there's some discussion there of the high-level route gaps. I won't go into those in detail. But, yeah, as was mentioned, we've done a review of all the C1 strategic cycle network and C2 secondary strategic cycle network cycle routes. So these are in the integrated transport strategy network maps. C1 being the important routes, C2 being the secondary important routes, and that's in a map on the integrated transport strategy. The assessment was undertaken, there's a link there included on the slide pack that's an Excel spreadsheet with lots of the assessment. But essentially, it was key information that we used to inform the selection of possible north-south and east-west pop-up quick-build cycle routes. And the streets that were determined that would require significant infrastructure upgrades, such as permanent road geometry changes, with additional design and funding requirements, they were excluded from pop-up consideration. So the list of streets that, after the assessment, these streets still have their challenges, but they're the ones that, after the assessment, were considered to worthy of moving to the next stage of assessment.
Through you, Chair, just to pause on this one because this is quite important. We put a series of streets there down. That doesn't necessarily mean that the street itself would see a full length of a pop-up cycleway. For instance, if you were to look at Wakefield Street by way of example. But from our perspective, these streets have been identified as ones which would suit and linking to the C1s and C2s, which Council formally endorsed through its integrated transport strategy. These are the streets in question that we need to look at if you want to achieve your aspirations in regards to a connected city. Now, naturally, we've had challenges in the past in regards to Franklin Street, for those who remember, when we went out to consultation on the east-west. I will be honest in regards to this. The challenges normally come to this in regards to when you're talking about the current infrastructure that's currently in place. So what happens is, if you're looking at a separated bikeway, effectively challenges may be parking, challenges may be trees, challenges may be protuberances, or impact to businesses and or drop-offs. So from our perspective, we try to highlight the infrastructure challenges before us. There's some ones which we believe which are easier to achieve. For instance, if you were looking at Morford Road or Morford Street, but that some of them still require some car parking removals. Certainly some certain sections in regards to Wakefield Street really lends itself to achieve it because there's minimal parking impacts. But there's a full myriad of streets there. I'd just like to ask Council at this present stage just to review that, and have you got any views knowing your intel in regards to those streets?
Deputy Lord Mayor, and then I think we'll have Councillor Seventry.
Just to answer that particular one, I would say that when I was going through the election in 2022, there was a whole lot of, there was almost like a group of very high profile business people who were very anti doing anything in Flinders and Franklin Street. And it was brutal, to tell you the truth. So, and they were lobbying. So expect that if you're going to look at those two streets, because they're still there. And I just added to that, I would look at any street where if there was a removal of car parks, it wasn't going to be out in front of businesses.
We'll take that one as a comment. Councillor Seventry.
Sturt Street's an interesting one to me because there are parts of Sturt Street where there's really quite, I suppose, well laid out car parks. They're 90-degree angles, then you get a bike path. It's quite a wide street, so it could lend itself to this. My question though is that we've also, in the FY27 budget, my recollection is that we're looking at a median strip in Sturt Street. So how would future infrastructure upgrades to streets be factored into what we do and don't select for pilots?
Through you, Presiding Member, very good question. It's one that Sean has from Transport has challenged other infrastructure colleagues in regards to that. So effectively, when it comes to new and upgrade and renewal works and tree planting as well, how does that impact future aspirations in regards to ITS? And the simple answer to that is bringing the groups together to understand what's best overall in regards to design and where we can minimise costs and or disruption. But again, the challenges always remain in regards to the street itself. And it's interesting that you picked Sturt Street as an example. For some councillors, they might remember there actually was a separated bikeway in Sturt Street many years ago, although it only happened for around about 9 months and it was asked to be removed. It was one that was done very, very quickly and it popped up and whatever, but effectively I believe some of the businesses more towards the West Terrace end, mainly car dealerships, were probably against it and they wanted to see more open parking space. So from our perspective, we've tried to integrate where practical, where possible. It's not about who gets in first and who's best dressed. It's about joining the dots in regards to infrastructure improvements.
Councillor Kouros.
I'm just interested to know, just maybe everyone else understands it, but just want some clarification on infrastructure challenges. You've got Stanley Street, Ward Street, Molesworth Street, Milks Terrace, nil. Why is that? Whenever I would have thought that there would be, because it's car parking.
I'll ask Sean to respond to that. Thank you.
Matt, thank you for the question. I guess on preliminary assessment, they're very wide streets with no infrastructure that no protuberances into the roadway, so there is car parking. But the idea would be the car parking moves in, the space that the cars can move along narrows, and the bike infrastructure is on curbside. So there would be another stage of design development to verify that, but based on preliminary assessment and that sort of idea of the configuration, of course, then there's still the discussion with the residents and the driveway access.
I might not just understanding, sorry. So just please bear with me. So you're talking about leaving the car park as it is, but you're building a bikeway, a pop-up behind it, is that right?
I think one of the slides might have a picture that would assist. I'll just go back. On the bottom right, there's a picture. So let's see how the car parking is pushed out.
Oh, you're meaning changing it from angle car parking to parallel?
Well, that could be angle parking
Oh.
on, if the road is wide enough,
okay.
that could be angle parking.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Cross?
Yeah, as long as it stays angle parking, because I don't think the residents.
Fantastic. I saw Councillor Freeman with your hand up. You have a question, comment?
Well, just making a comment on the administration's question about this shortlist. So, a couple of things. First of all, it's hard for me to say which of these are the most important because it is a preliminary analysis and there's a lot of criteria that is not shown here. And in fairness to you, I gave you a very short time frame to turn this around. So thank you for presenting this tonight. Anecdotally, I can tell you that anyone that does ride a bike loves Flinders and Franklin Street. There is data to suggest that. That is where the most prevalent traffic is from a bike perspective in the city. That is where we've received the most feedback on things like Bike Spot, for example. And I say that because those are inputs that I think we also need to see, as well as quantifying the infrastructure challenges we're talking about here. Flinders Franklin does have a very contentious history because of the amount of car parking. And at a higher level, yes, we've acknowledged that that would be a challenge, but how much of a challenge is it? Could it be reconciled by having a bikeway on one side of the road that's bi-directional, that sort of thing? I think that's that next step. So in terms of that additional criteria, looking at your preliminary assessment, and I did notice that Bike Spot's mentioned at the bottom, but doesn't seem to be in the table. So that is a really good way of gauging where people that are riding now, where their preference is, which we need to balance with some of the challenges. But also, it's great that you've got crash data in here, but things like, you know, looking at Strava and what sort of data we collect from that. We talk about the demand as well, which we've rated into low, medium, high from Super Tuesday. Is there further data we can get to substantiate that demand? We also don't have that for all routes, but we have the traffic. Sorry, I'm not explaining myself very well. So I can see here that we're trying to compare how many cars drive on the road versus how many bikes are riding on that road. But we really need to have all of the data to make that comparison and make a decision. So I guess with that said, I'm just asking for more criteria in the next step so we can make a decision. But other than that, I think the shortlist makes sense. Recognising that a lot of these have challenges and maybe some of the alternative pop-up interventions you've suggested are more appropriate in the short term.
Mr McCready, a response?
Through you, Presiding Member. Thank you, Councillor Freeman. Naturally, this, as you indicate, this is a preliminary assessment that we've put out. There'll be further detail. We're not asking for Council to give us direction tonight. We're just seeking feedback, which we would take and then go away. But effectively, what we do wish to highlight is the challenges of achieving a protected or separated bikeway. There's real decisions that need to be made if you really want to progress this. And from our perspective, you're indeed correct. Flinders and Franklin Street are a main thoroughfare in regards to cyclists, as is Sturt Street as well, because of the schools and whatever. There is low-hanging fruit in that, but it's not the full length of the street, as I indicated. Wakefield is one, and naturally there is an opportunity to finally connect back to Lefevre Terrace in regards to the north-south bikeway if you're looking along there, and it doesn't impact that much parking as you start to go up the hill back into North Adelaide. But there is opportunities to start to do that. But the big one is the east-west, and all I can say to you is east-west does provide challenges.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, look, a question first. How long is the trial going to last? Will it be a 6 month, 7 month, 10 month, 12 month?
Through you, Presiding Member, we will come back to Council to determine that, because that will be the basis of our engagement with the community as well, because effectively it is a pilot, it's a trial. It would be no less than 3 months, but potentially we're not wishing to go for a year, because once you get to a year, it almost becomes permanent by nature. So it's somewhere in that 3 to 6 month type period.
Look, I guess the contribution I would make is that I think there needs, if it's to be a trial, a pop up, then it needs to be 2 stages. That is to say, the implementation preceded by consultation, and then a review at a midpoint.
Yeah.
So if it's dreadfully unpopular, that becomes clear. If it's popular, you continue for the next 3 months or whatever period is determined. But at that midpoint, to have that reference point would be really good. And the other thing that I would contribute to the conversation is I'm not really interested in bikeways that are not protected. Protected bikeways are, we know, what people are asking for. And when it comes to protected bikeways, I'm not interested personally in streets that go nowhere. Picking Sturt Street, this street or that street, which is just, a space in the middle of nowhere, is not provided. Well, no. If you're putting a bikeway in Sturt Street and it comes to an end in the cemetery, or alternatively on King William Street, that is not a trial of an east-west or north-south bikeway. I think there needs to be the connection. That is what, as I understand it, cyclists are wanting to see, a means of traversing the city and to do so in a protected fashion. And I guess to that point, as you would expect me to say, as a North Ward councillor, I would like to see that connection between Lefevre and Frome, the completion of what was intended to be a connected bikeway. And if that's a temporary trial as a protected bikeway, then that's sensational, not least because I've always been concerned about Botanic High students, many of whom come from not just North Adelaide but Prospect and beyond, and who are encouraged by the Education Department to use their bikes to get to and from school. So I think that's a really important one. And the second one is, having lived through the threats, the intimidation of the east-west bikeway, and believe me, it's ferocious, it really is. I think this is an opportunity to put in a pop-up for a defined period and say to people, let's have a go, see what you think. If it's dreadful, we'll find out soon enough. But nevertheless, we have at least tried it. It is a line in the sand. If it doesn't work, then we research it again. But that still remains, from the list that's provided, the easiest one to implement for a short period of time. And if you pardon my French, if we piss off people for 12 weeks, we piss off people for 12 weeks. But there's the assurance that if it's a disaster, it ends at that time.
It's Central Ward. You'll all come to me.
And with respect to Central Ward councillors, perhaps we shouldn't do it in the run-up to the election. I'll leave that in the hands of the administration.
I won't vote for it.
Thank you for the French lesson. I've got Councillor Kouros and then Lord Mayor.
I'm personally not interested in pissing anyone off. I think that would be a huge mistake. I think we need to bring people on a journey to accepting them, valuing them, not having a fight with them. I think we really need to choose a street where we think we're going to have some success. I think to start choosing fights with people is just ridiculous. We've already got that happening at the moment. We've got to stop that rhetoric and stop having that fight with bikes versus cars. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, we're not having that.
Oh, you are, because that's what basically
Members,
you
no
would do
crosstalk, please.
if you choose that the one that is very contentious, and I think that would be the worst thing that you can possibly do. I think we should look at things that we should have success in. We should bring people on board. People should see them happening on their street and value them, and we can start building on them rather than. I can see everyone smiling at me, thinking that this is something that we should start choosing to have fights with people. That is wrong. Courage. No, I've lived through that, and I think Councillor Noon only had it at an election. I actually had it for 4 years, and people are very passionate about it, and I don't think that would be the right thing to do, and it's wrong. wrong to shove things down people's throats.
Thank you. We've got Lord Mayor, Councillor Snape, Councillor Freeman again, and we do still have some more
Thank
slides.
you. Can I just ask that we have some special attention to War Memorial Drive, because looking at the North Adelaide Golf Course, Public Golf Course Act 2025, there are real implications for that road, and it's such an important one for people coming from the western suburbs. I use it very often, and there is a sort of hard shoulder that people can ride on, but it gets cars parked on it, and it is an important route. But I wouldn't want to spend money doing things there and then have it dug up or moved because of the golf course. One of the things that I find really interesting is that we don't actually have the numbers of the bike usage on the footpath. And for me, one of the reasons to get them off the road, the footpath, and get them on the road into a protected bike route is that it actually protects pedestrians. And I think we're getting increasing risk with e-bikes and e-scooters and the delivery bicycles that are whizzing around the footpaths. I think that getting all of them off the footpath would be a good thing. But the thing that I find the most extraordinary is Gooja Street, where we're told we're not allowed to have a bike path because it will take a lane, actually has had a lane missing for 3.5 years, and it's not been the end of the world. The Central Market still operates, people still go about their business. Grote Street has had a lane missing for a while, and outside the Women's and Children's Hospital, I think we're up to 7 years now, and possibly another 7, because there's a casualty department built on the footpath. And nobody's complained because it looks like building work. So the peculiarity of Adelaide is that drivers love building works when they take a lane away, and they never complain. I have never had a complaint about building works, ever. But there's a complaint about a bike path. So I think what we should do is call these things a building works, and say it's only going to be there for 4 months or 3 months or whatever it is, and no one will complain. It may be the way to get around public opinion.
Good luck.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Snape?
Thank you, and thank you for your team, the administration, for putting this work together. I think I'm not have too much new information to add. I think the east-west is crucial, whether it looks like. I would love to see Sturt Street, but also noting the fact that I think linking to the Burnside cycleway would be fantastic. However, as we know, we lose access through the parklands for a substantial period of time. So that would be great, but there's just some complications around that. I share Councillor Martin's position. I think Flinders and Franklin is a brave but correct choice. I think if we are very clear about the temporary nature of it, I think that is probably the best choice, but obviously noting that Wakefield and Grote is an option as well. But I think if we're going to do it, we have to do it well. We have to go from the east to the west, right across one of those 3 sections. I also share Councillor Martin's desire around the completion, temporary in its nature, of the Lafina terrace. I think connecting that to Frome, I think if we're going to do anything north-south, that is a good one to tick off the list and actually have that full north to south in connection. Other than that, I think there's some good work to be done. I think we're going to have to be bold in this, but as has been said repeatedly, it's temporary, it's temporary, it's temporary.
Thank you, Councillor Snape. Now, before we go to Councillor Freeman, we are rapidly approaching 8:30, so I need to seek leave of the meeting to continue past 8:30 until we've addressed all agenda items. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, thank you. That is carried. Councillor Freeman.
Just a couple of additional comments. First of all, the the length of the trial being between 3 and 6 months, I think that probably would be met favourably with the general public, but I ask that we are open to extending that, because the interstate, Sydney and Melbourne, had a trial longer than that. I don't think it would be perceived as permanent for the reasons the Lord Mayor just listed. We have many lanes closed all over the city that have been far longer than 3 to 6 months, but I understand that we need to be careful about how we message pop-up bikeways. Then just lastly, again, on the list, so having you look at the C1 and C2 routes has revealed that there are many routes that are not what we want them to be right now, but that doesn't mean we need to put pop-up infrastructure on all of them. It does mean that we need to have enough money in the long-term financial plan to address these, which we'll get to in the next agenda item. I agree with some of the comments that I think we should be going for low-hanging fruit. So where there's the least impact, the least resistance, I think we start there. That's a good idea. We'll get to the next slides shortly where you've proposed things that don't materially impact the street. But obviously, the biggest impact people seem to be concerned with is car parking. Are there other ways of having pop-up infrastructure that maintain car parking, but maybe the traffic lane changes long-term? Are we looking at slowing that street down anyway? All those sorts of things I think will come in that next stage when we've got more criteria and a more thorough assessment.
Okay, I think we've got a response from Mr. McCready.
Members, I'm very conscious of time, so I'll just ask Sean to, just if you can, quickly just touch on the next slides. But the big one for us is also the engagement approach, just to understand. So please, thank you.
Sure thing. So just a few other treatments. They're not protected cycleways, but there's I guess other pop-up or quick build improvements for cycle infrastructure. I won't run through them at this point in time. There's some maps highlighting the locations just to assist with identifying how the routes might connect and destinations and things like that. And the slide, the engagement approach. So really around the proposal is to engage with, it's a targeted stakeholder engagement, noting it's a trial, and so notify broadly, but then really around if there's some changes to curbside access and things like that, deliveries for businesses, those sorts of things, we'll need to work through those. And then, an implementation review to collect data on usage and so we understand what the change has been and success. And then next steps. So based on the list, keep working through the list that's been provided with some concept plans and cost estimates, working out the challenges and the opportunities, and then come back to council detailing the outcomes of that assessment with recommendations and the key questions again.
So members, in closing, effectively we've identified streets east-west as our target. There's real low-hanging fruit in regards to the north-south, which we want to look at and investigate. I think certain councillors have highlighted. From our perspective, we're very conscious of the impact of cycleways, but we're also conscious of achieving cycleways as per city plan, as per the integrated transport strategy. It's important that we start to progress these items. So from our perspective, we will come back, we'll take on board your feedback, we'll take on board the break in between a trial where we do the intercept studies and understand what people's views are. So effectively, if it is too burdensome and whatever, we'll remove it. If not, we can extend, but we'll come back at a date to be confirmed. Thank you.
Councillor Freeman, last word.
Sorry, me again. Just a few final remarks. The engagement approach you're talking about. There are some key stakeholders that I think we need to be speaking to. There are a number of lobby groups, Bike Adelaide, Bike SA, Critical Mass. They would have a firm view on how we should be rolling this out, and I really think that they should be engaged. Equally, the schools in the city, so St Mary's and Adelaide Botanic High School both have principals that ride e-bikes every day. I would love to know what they think about this. St Mary's in particular, noting 5 years ago there was a very different view. Maybe that's changed now. I think that was everything. Oh, just finally, when I brought this to council, I did say, can we improve wayfinding or online comms or parking or something like that, knowing that there would be resistance to car parking? And I know that you've considered some traffic calming treatments instead of an actual bike lane, but what's missing for me here is what are we doing on residential streets? Can we enhance those low stress routes that we already have, make people more aware of them, rather than upsetting a lot of people with removal of car parking? So I just encourage that to remain in the assessment and the next steps as well.
Thank you. Okay, is that the end of the item, Mr. McCready?
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you, team. Now, before we move on to the next agenda item, which is 7.1, I'm just going to see if we have a mover and second to take a quick 2-minute break, given that we run straight into this meeting. Moved, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Freeman. All those in favour? Thank you. Adjourn the meeting for 2 minutes. Thank you. All those against? That is carried. Adjourn the meeting for 2 minutes. Thank you. Okay, thank you, members. We'll resume the meeting there and we'll proceed to item 7.1. I'll ask, are we done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Councillor Noon, if you just spin in your chair and we can get started. Thank you. Okay, Lord Mayor's ready to move that one. Deputy Lord Mayor seconded. Do you wish to speak to the item, Lord Mayor? Deputy Lord Mayor.
I think it's a great idea. That's
Thank
all I
you.
have to say. I think we should say money.
Do we have any other comment on this one?
Good stuff.
No? I'd like to ask admin a question myself. Why the endorsement of option 2 as opposed to the other options that were presented, if there is anything that is not in the item?
I refer you to the attachment, which outlines the benefits and disbenefits of the 4 options.
And to add to that, effectively, we think a partnered program is a stronger proposition because it leverages the strengths of other people, including the music office, effectively in terms of that space.
Thank you. Okay. No further questions, Councillor Davis?
How much each of the plaques cost?
The plaques?
Yeah.
I think there was a range
Yeah, so
given.
if you have a look effectively, depending on the plaque in 9.1, wall-mounted plaques are $1,000 each in terms of that space, but under the Heritage Plaques program, it's about $600. So that's the blue plaque. So it just depends on which plaque and which location, and understanding that the Heritage Plaques program already exists today.
Can we get the plaques cheaper? $600 is a lot.
I would think effectively we can take that question on notice, but when you start to think about the importance of the plaque and how long it needs to stay for a permeability perspective, they're specially made to be able to sort of cope with the elements in terms of that space.
It just, yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of retaining wall. There's a lot of concrete you can buy for $600. A question, I think we're being taken for a ride. I think we could probably pay $50 for a plaque. I'd be happy to help source an alternative provider, but I think we can do a lot better than that.
Happy to take that as a comment and
Take that
review.
one as a comment. I have a question around the plaques as well. Will there potentially be sites that have a blue plaque and a bespoke plaque? Could you possibly have both, or would you just have one or the other?
There could be. Effectively, the blue plaques is part of the Heritage Plaques program, but remembering that has particular criteria where it can only apply to its heritage role. And you'll see in 5.4, the administration team have identified there's 8 heritage listed buildings who were at their earliest record use for live music and which could be eligible for the heritage plaques. If you look at effectively from sections 6 and 7, that outlines to 9 outlines essentially if you needed another bespoke plaque program for those that wouldn't qualify for the heritage program. So potentially you could have 2 different types of plaques.
Thank you. No further comments? Lord Mayor, you move to the motion? Thank you. All right, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Thank you, team. We'll move on to item 7.2. I can see I've got a hand up. Councillor Freeman to move.
I'd like to move an amendment, Chair.
That would be an alternative. It's seconded by Councillor Snape. Do you wish to comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So reading the report and looking at just how many items are in the pipeline for the integrated transport strategy, I kept coming to the same question of when are we going to deliver these things, just because of the sheer quantum of things. I would like to have more of an idea of year on year when we're delivering what. And looking back at the integrated transport strategy, some, not all, but some of the actions in that strategy have dates specified, and some of them were supposed to be delivered by the end of this financial year. Of course, budget processes happen, other things happen, that's not always realistic, but what I would like to understand is where are we lagging, how much are we deficient in delivering the integrated transport strategy. I'm not asking for a full funding of that strategy, but I am asking for what those target dates were so that next budget process we're informed of how much we need to catch up on.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the seconder, Councillor Snape. Is that all right? Councillor Stephenship.
There's reference in the document here to the school safety review, which I know has been of strong interest to a large number of members at our community. Can we just talk to what parts of that would be delivered? So my understanding is that $1.5 million, which is earmarked here, is not related to infrastructure, it is speed limits, is that right? We're getting a lot of questions.
Through you, Presiding Member, if you look at attachment A, one of the first items talks to 1.5 million, noting that Council have also asked us, which we haven't referenced, to go out and seek an additional 1.5 million through state government funding. That is in regards to the initial one that we had proposed until that amendment was put through was for circa $800,000, which was signage and basically traffic calming in and around schools. The additional will allow us to look at bringing in key projects within the school safety. School safety reports due in July, I believe. We did have it almost ready, but we just want to tweak it a little bit more. But also I can report that we were successful in the 800,000 we had originally. We got 485,000 or whatever, 480,000 from the state government to assist in regards to that programme as well. So we're somewhat on our way to getting that 1.5 million. So effectively there will be key infrastructure will be allocated and built in that 1.5, and the team are going to go away and have a look at that to implement it for 26-27.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, just to clarify, so the report that's coming in July, that will outline in more detail what that 1.5 will go towards?
That's correct. I would hope so. However, what we've, it will be subject to, first of all, where we are with the design process, because what we want to do is deliver projects, not just keep on designing projects, but design and deliver. So it would be our ambition and our goal to present that. And naturally, I know Sean and the team are working feverishly to understand what does $3 million look like, and that's a challenge for us if we were to get an additional $1.5 million, because that was above and beyond what we had planned. But that would be our goal. But I think it was highlighted through that meeting. A large amount of the infrastructure in regards to integrated transport is also around school safety, somewhat north of $30 million, but that's over a long period.
Okay, got a couple of hands. Councillor Couros, and then Councillor Martin, and then Councillor Davis.
Just going back to what Councillor Freeman's saying, that she wants a date on everything, that when we're going to achieve it. Isn't a lot of it dependent on co-funding for the state government, or would that put us in a position to not be, if we're putting it in our plan, will it stop us being able to claim any funding?
Through you, Presiding Member, I think in particular Councillor Freeman's talking to the unfunded priorities, which are, I think is in attachment B of the report. So attachment A talks to 3 years of funded. So for instance, there's circa $7 million in for 26-27. 2 million, and then rises the year after because there's $5 million in for hopefully East-West Bikeway. So effectively what the council is trying to establish is a timeline, and then if that gives us a target date, we know we need to go out for funding, or it needs to be presented within the long-term financial plan.
Should that say that then in there to be a bit more specific, or?
My belief is that the wording of the target delivery dates for key projects and services as specified, so only where they are already specified by the ITS, they will be included.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, look, I had a couple of questions and I wanted to take up that thread, but first, taking into consideration the allocation for 26-27, can someone take me through the reference to para 16 and the $300 million identified? How does that work out? Is that all borrowings, or is that, where does it all come from?
Straight out of the asset management.
Yeah, through as the CEO's indicated, your asset management plan identified the total value in regards to the works that we need to achieve, and that's clearly identified within your asset management plan for transportation, which is roads, footpaths, the whole lot. So it's not just it's the whole infrastructure plan for transportation for the city.
Okay, well look, and to that point, and taking up the thread, I'm interested in the case study that's provided at 12.1, where it says, Ward Street, Jeff O'Connell is due for renewal. It qualifies for ITS network maps as a W3 walking route, C1 cycle route, blah, 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 blah. And then the administration goes on to say that it needs some kind of trigger to ensure that the infrastructure is upgraded, not just delivered like for like. What is the trigger for that? Does that require a motion of council to do that, or will you bring it automatically to council saying, this is what we want to do?
Through you, Presiding Member, naturally it will be brought before council as part of its future budget deliberations. So what we're talking about is effectively, if you were to do a like, you're talking renewal, you won't achieve your C1, C2 aspirations because we're talking new infrastructure. So effectively, as was indicated earlier, we will be bringing Ward Street through to talk about how we'll integrate with other pieces of infrastructure, how we can dovetail in and reduce the cost through efficiencies, but also it will talk about these are the new elements that we need to introduce and here's the costs associated with it.
So it'll come to us?
It will.
Yeah, okay. And then just taking up this point of target dates, which I know are addressed at 21.2 and 21.3, those timeframes then are covered by the amendment that's been put forward.
That would be our understanding, but we will take it away, and if we have any challenges with it, we will come back. But our understanding is really what you're trying to do is clearly identify the key projects and services and the dates associated.
Okay, well, look, I don't have much to say about this except that it's an enormous strategy and it requires some really active consideration of council in order to implement it. And I just can't help thinking this is something that will stretch way beyond my lifetime.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Davis.
Can you tell me about what are the KPIs and outcomes that we want to see for Biketober and Ride to Work Day? How will we know that the $225,000 spent there is effective?
Through you, presiding member. So first of all, Biketober is also linked into Ride to Work Day, whatever. So naturally, we will have definitive KPIs, which will talk about how many people have actually attended the event. There's education sessions that are undertaken. So really, what it's doing is an awareness in regards to cycling, sharing experiences in regards to cycling, introducing cycle maps, and then talking about infrastructure requirements. So we'll provide that feedback, but I'll give you an undertaking to give you more information in regards to Biketober.
Okay. Yeah, 75,000 is a big whack. How many new cycle parking installations will there be?
I'll take that as an undertaking, Councillor. I can't address that straight away today, but I'll go away and have a look at the information for you.
Okay, because we're spending 280,000. Do we have no idea how many there would be? Does anyone know?
What?
Way less than car park.
Is it going to be like 28 of them, or is it 4 of them?
Through you, presiding member, as I indicated, I'll take that on notice and come back and respond to you.
Okay. Can you respond by email, if you could?
I'll respond via e-news, which will be an undertaking that will go out to all elected members.
Okay. With the Glen Osmond Road and Sir Donald Bradman Drive, I think that's come up, but where would I find that proposal and that design for that?
Happy to share that with you again, another undertaking in this meeting, but are you talking about the BPAC?
I'm talking about the Goal 3 business growth improvements.
So are you talking about the bicycle pedestrian access?
I don't know.
Glen
Osmond Road and Sir Donald
1.3?
Bradman Drive. Yeah, 2.3 million.
Yeah, fully funded, the Glen Osmond and Sir Donald Bradman fully funded by state government, 1.3 and 1.2 million. We have shared that with council in the past through our capital works reports. Happy to share that information with you.
Okay. A curbside management policy for $80,000. That's one person working an entire year to develop the policy. Can we not do better than 80 grand for the development of a policy?
Through you, presiding member, I won't go into how we engage and whatever, whether we're using consultants or internal, but $80,000 I believe is very efficient and very light for a curbside parking and management policy, considering council have been waiting for this for some time. So I would actually think that that's quite reasonable in regards to the delivery of something like that.
All right. I'll speak to it. I think that there are a lot of things in here that to me seem like completely overblown. I think that we should be a lot more responsible in the way that we're spending money. I can't see the value that we're necessarily going to deliver for these budgets. And to me, they seem incongruous with what a ratepayer would expect for the money spent. In my view, I would like to see these budgets come down significantly or substantial KPIs put in place. So, you know, for Biketober, it sounds like a lovely thing, but it's $225,000 over 3 years. What are we actually going to get for that if there's 10 people rocking up and $7,500 a person, or are we talking hundreds and hundreds of people, or is it really just a marketing campaign? I want to see the actual data of how many extra bikes have entered the city for $75,000, because if it's not working, then don't continue to spend it. There are other things we could spend the money on in a better way. It could actually be building a bike lane rather than telling everybody what a good idea it is to use it. To me, I think the budget needs to be reevaluated completely including like the last speaker in terms of like $600 for a park. It would not cost you $600 for a park. That's crazy. I think that I would encourage the administration to go through line by line and try and get a lot better value for ratepayers on these proposals.
Is this a plaque? Is there a plaque in here? I missed that.
I'll take that one as a
I know
point
you
of
think
order.
wasting money is funny, but
No,
it's
I'm
quite
just
serious.
I'm looking for the plaque. I can't find it.
I'll take that as a point of order. I'll just rule against it and remind the member to speak to the motion in front of us.
I understand how childish that is.
I missed it.
I hope you grow up someday.
I think we'll move on to
Point
the next.
of order.
Point of
I
order,
was
Councillor Martin.
asking a legitimate question about a reference the speaker made to something I can't find, and I'm being told to grow up.
Well, he clearly didn't listen to what I said because I referred to the previous
Let me
item.
rule on the point of order. I did remind him to speak to the motion, and he has concluded his speech to the motion. So we will happily to move on to the next.
Comments and then
No, at the moment now you're interrupting. I'm dealing with the point of order. Thank you, Councillor Davis.
The point of order is that this is out of order behaviour. If it happens again, I'll ask for a regulation 29. It really is unpleasant.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Now, do we have anyone else to speak to this motion?
I'd like to raise a point of order.
Councillor
The
Davis,
constant
point of
threat of Regulation 29 is bullying, it's intimidation, and it makes an unsafe workplace. And I'd ask the member to refrain from threatening other members in chamber.
Point of
And I've asked this
order,
multiple
Chair.
times.
It's not a
I'll just-
threat to
I'll
raise a
just deal
point of
with the
order
first
and refer
one,
to a
thank you.
Regulation 29.
It's a continuing threat.
Sorry.
Councillor Davis did raise a point of order first, and I'll just conclude that one. Thank you for your concern, but I won't accept that point of order.
I don't feel that this is a safe working environment. I'm going to leave. If you want to gang up, then that's on you, Chair. If you want to indulge that behaviour.
I don't believe anyone is ganging up on you, Councillor Davis.
I hope that you can improve the conduct of these meetings. But good night.
Good night.
Actually, Chair,
Now,
Chair.
just hold for a moment. We dealt with Councillor Davis's point of order. Councillor Freeman had a point of order. Your comment is taken, but it is not a point of order. Now, do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Couros? No? Thank you. If there is no further comment, we'll go back to the mover, Councillor Freeman.
Love to sum up, Chair. I don't agree that the ITS is a waste of ratepayer money. There are many ratepayers who are thrilled with the ITS. It marks a very significant milestone in terms of integrated transport in this city. The question I just keep getting is, when are we delivering all of this? There is a very, very exciting program of work here. I would just love to help answer the question of when it's coming, hence the amendment. For example, the ITS says that we will audit all of our footpaths by the end of this financial year, but that is not something in the budget, and there's probably good reason for that. It's just giving transparency of why that has slipped and when we will reprioritise it. I think I'll leave it there. I've been looking forward to this implementation plan since the day I started. Love it. It sounds really exciting. I just want to know how much we can do and when.
Thank you. All right, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, members. We'll move on to the next item. Oh, raise of hands. We'll go with the Lord Mayor for this one and Councillor Snape to second. It's the Capital Works Monthly Project. Lord Mayor, any comment?
I was fascinated by the presentation of this report, and I have to say that I pine with a level of nostalgia for the old city engineers' sparse text and economic narrative style. I don't know what's been happening, but this is florid, verbose and flowery. I just wonder if you have a new tool writing this stuff. Because the language is quite different and it's a lot longer. I think that it's better when it's short and sharp and engineer speak. So
I think the CEO has a comment.
Is that, through the chair, is that a comment or a question?
no, just a comment.
No, we'll let it go.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, thank you. Councillor Martin, you wish to speak?
Just a tiny comment, amidst the florid language, I was delighted to see Mansfield Street referenced, and I just wanted to say it's such a delight to see trees on what was a barren asphalt stretch. It really does look excellent, so thank you for that.
Seconder, you wish to unreserve your right? Councillor Couros?
Oh, just on that, is there any foreseeable future, I know this is on works done, for Walter Street trees?
To presiding member, Walter Street, if I am indeed correct, I wasn't at the meeting, but I think it was identified when we presented the greening plan, and Walter Street was an inclusion, so that is in the 26-27 plan.
Sounds good. Councillor Freeman, you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to say, I like the language. I don't agree, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, do you wish to sum up?
No, I want to congratulate the staff for doing so much. And where we have struggled to do main streets, I think it's been because we have been difficult, obstructive and delayed. It hasn't been their fault. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you, members. Move on to the next item, 7.4, Melbourne Street Revitalisation. Councillor Freeman to move. Councillor Snape to second. Councillor Freeman. Councillor Snape.
Just to acknowledge this is just consultation summary. Good reading. So thank you to this team for doing the work.
Thank you. Councillor Couros.
I'm just not going to agree with this motion, sorry, this recommendation. I just think that we've got the Wombat crossings that are happening on the street, which is fine, and then we're asking to reduce the speed limit to 40, and I'm already getting a lot of people that are getting very angst that nothing's happening on the street in regards to the upgrades, and they're not believing that will happen, and the fact that we go straight to a 40 kilometre per hour reduction without any visible upgrade to the street. I just probably gonna not vote for it because I think that this should be brought in all together the time when we do up the street, rather than doing it in increments. And reducing the speed limit, then they have to wait. I think it's until, what's the new timeline now? It's now, we're looking at 29:30, I believe, for the construction to start. And then reducing the speed limit without anything visible happening to the street. I just think that the people have had enough. And they keep thinking that it's just never going to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Couros. Mr McCree's indicated he's got a comment on two of those points for the CEO.
We're not going to enter the debate unless there's a specific question.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go to Councillor Siebentritt and then the Lord Mayor and then Councillor Martin.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm happy to support this. I do note the interesting debate around 30 versus 40 kilometres per hour. So I'm happy that we've landed on 40 here. The feedback has been quite useful. I think it does highlight, though, the challenge we continue to have in getting enough insights from what local residents are looking for, as opposed to local businesses, and then, of course, the broader community. There is a broader issue within here, which I'd like to check that it will be dealt with during the detail design, which is I think they're called flexible parking spaces, there's rollovers. I'll reiterate that I've heard feedback from businesses on King William Road that they're not favoured. Maybe we will do it differently here, but I'd be interested as to whether we could include within detail design some piloting of this, if there's a way to incorporate that. I feel like I don't want to be in a position where we're foisting a design solution onto a local community when the questions already been raised around it. I'd rather have a pilot, get buy into it, and then be confident we can move forward. So I suppose my question at the end of that comment, Chair, is there a way for us to explore a pilot for that flexible parking option?
Through you, presiding member, we'll take that away and have a look at what that would look like, and it may be a segmented small section within the road to reflect what a curb would look like in the profile. But if I bring you to the executive summary, you see that we've deliberately underlined one statement in there which said this is not what is being proposed within Melbourne Street, so it's not King William Road, which is an elevated curb. It's quite a very low contoured curb going in, which allows for vehicles. And noting that the flexible space, when it's not being used by the businesses, is actually a parking space. But we're happy to look at that in regards to how we would achieve that.
I'll just say, Chair, I think that would be great because it would help build confidence in this as a design solution, because I don't feel like we want to end up in a position they did on King William Road and then we'll be criticised for having not listened to and observed the issues elsewhere across the city.
Thank you. Lord Mayor.
Can I just say, what's staggering about all this is the high proportion of people who walk, cycle, or use public transport. I had assumed, because I so often drive to Melbourne Street, that it was mainly a drive-in visitation number, but it's clearly not. It's walking, public transport and cycling. So that's the first thing I've noticed. And I agree, I think we shouldn't wait till 29 or whatever it is to start trialling this. And I agree with Councillor Siebentritt because it's a bit, I'm not saying patronising, but you read the stuff about the flexible parking, and we have said in the report somewhere, oh, don't worry, we'll do it better. But people don't believe that. And I don't really understand what was wrong with the ones in Umney, but I know they cause so much aggravation, and I don't think we want to pretend we're going to do it for the next 3 years, torture the traders, torture the residents, and produce a backlash against something that's not a problem. So I would actually suggest that we investigate early implementation of a trial or a piloted flexible zone, so that we do it well before the actual work's done, because otherwise we won't have a result. And we should be upfront and say, we think we can do it better than Unley, we think it will be popular, but try it, and if you don't like it, we won't do it. Because I'm really worried, not that I don't understand what's wrong with them, to be honest, but everyone complains they twisted their ankles, they dropped off, they fell out of their cars. I mean, it's as unpopular as Jetty Road, and I don't want to buy into it. I think we need to sort it out quickly so the design is agreed, and if it's so wonderful, everyone will agree. So maybe, I don't know if, well, Councillor Siebentritt can't second it now, but I think we should actually say we want early implementation of a pilot of a flexible.
Through the presiding member, Mr McCready has effectively given an undertaking to investigate those early implementation trials, and that'll be recorded as part of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Martin.
Yes, look, can I just say at the outset, I am not in agreement with the retiming of the Melbourne Street revitalisation, as indeed is Councillor Couros. It is one of the few occasions on which we agree, and frankly, I would like to foreshadow that at some point in the near future, I, perhaps in collaboration with Councillor Couros, will be attempting to move to have that pilot implemented early, but in addition to review, and perhaps we need to do it before the council meeting, the proposal to revert to a 40 kilometre per hour speed zone at this time. not least because there's a natural reduction in the speed limit which occurs through Wombat crossings. You will see a reduction, and indeed the administration has forecast that to us in reports previously. But in addition, I think we need to do something, and whatever we can to smarten up that particular strip, because it is the last on the list, would be a significant contribution that this council could make to that precinct. And so I flagged that I would like to bring something forward, perhaps as early as next week.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Freeman, you had your hand up next. Okay, if there's no further comment.
Is it back with me?
Yes.
But firstly, just a question of the administration. Is the Goodger Street revitalisation delivering flexible parking spaces?
Through you, presiding member, it is indeed. In particular, if you looked at the previous drawings, and which was asked for by ACMA, along the frontage there is a shared or flexible zone which will allow for activation, allow for vehicle parking, and or allow for loading as well. So it's flexible.
Excellent, thank you. Because given that is being delivered early, if an example of what these flexible spaces look like needs to be provided, that would be a very close example to Melbourne Street. King William Road, just so everyone is aware, is not a good example because it's too high. So by being that tiny bit too high, it's the difference between comfortably pulling your car in or stepping out of it versus it's like a curb. So that's the problem. And when we had this come to us last time, we acknowledged that. But it's probably why the traders also don't love it. But I've also heard that some traders do love it. And also last time we spoke about this, we were going to get a report from the City of Unley about how successful King William Road is. Because if you're a pedestrian, that is the best place to be. That street was dead and now it's alive. Yes, it's inconvenient to pull your car in. We can learn from that. We can only improve. So I suppose to sum up, I know that this has been delayed and not everyone in this elected body agrees with that. I don't think that should be the reason why we hold up 40 kilometres per hour. That's in the integrated transport strategy as something we will implement now. So we need to press on with that. The notion of having trial flexible parking spaces, I don't know how that would work. I'll be interested to see what Mr. McCready's team come up with. And all I would say about that is, if we're trialling something like that, we should be trialling it on all main streets, particularly Hutt Street, which formed part of the motion passed last year. So with that said, I think this recommendation is otherwise good to go.
Thank you, members. All those in favour? All those against? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, we don't have any reports for noting. Yes, we need to move an exclusion of the public. Lord Mayor, Councillor Freeman to second, no debate. All those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Please close the doors.